Hello again folks, and hope you're all keeping well out there. As the title suggests, this footage is a combination of all the foxes that I have taken through the year. Once I changed my foxing gear to include a Hikmicro Alpex 4K day-night scope and a Habrok 4K HE25L multi-spectrum binoculars. Boy, what a mouthful. And man has it made a change. Enjoy! Well, it might be fancy new gear, but it looks like you can still mess with it. This fox did a bit of a disappearing act, but thankfully I found it on the left hand side of the screen, curled up in a thicket of reeds, dead. This poor critter was in bad shape, limping, one eye, and I think it had a busted lower jaw. You can sort of see the damage to its lower jaw. Must have got hit by a car at some point. Spotted this one lurking around the backside of the farmyard. There was something in the foreground obstructing the IR, but I still managed to get the shot off. I was experimenting with different IR positions on the scope one night and set the rifle out over the back fence, only to see 3 foxes running and fighting around in the back field. I had no ammunition, not even a bolt in the rifle, so I just recorded footage. It wouldn't have been safe anyway, as I don't think my cousin would have appreciated me shooting next to his house. I managed to call this one in, and would have preferred him coming this side of the sheep wire, but it just sat down and looked at me, so beggars can't be choosers. This is just me experimenting with the Habrok 4K binoculars and the different colour spectrums. The farmer has a bit of a rubbish heap at the back of the yard, and there's a fox sniffing around in the middle of it here, though I can't quite pick it out with the IR. Though you can see it stands out a mile with the thermal binoculars. I was waiting for it to dander out down the field for a safe shot, but no, it disappeared further into the yard somewhere. Now, this is a good example for one of the benefits of having a multi-spectrum set of binoculars, as I spotted this creature coming down the hedgerow one night. Now, in the thermal you could mistake this for a fox, but with the multi-spectrum you can click through the different palettes until you get the night vision, and that'll give you a far more detailed image. And in this case it's a good thing too, as it's somebody's kitty cat, not a fox. I've already hit this fox. Why the scope didn't record it, I don't know. But it's still on its feet, unfortunately. Thankfully though, I get a second shot in, and that does the business. It's a bit bloody and mucky, but thankfully it's in the bag and accounted for. This particular night, the farmer's dog just would not stop barking at me, which you can't hear unfortunately, as I didn't realise I had the audio switched off in the thermal binoculars. A couple of 100 yards down the laneway though, and I spotted these two foxes bedded out in the field, obviously tuckered out from mating, as it was that time of year. By the time I had the rifle set up on the tripod, the dog fox had already started moving down the field to my left. As soon as I dropped it, I started lip squeaking to see if it would bring the other fox in. And sure enough, it came in like a train. Another one eye or two. I gave the area a bit of a scan with the thermal, as you never know, but it was great conditions for the thermal, nice, crisp and frosty. That's the first fox. And that's the second one. I hung around in that spot for a while longer to see if anything else appeared, and sure enough I spotted a heat source way up in the top of the next field. It could be a fox, it could be a badger, it could even be a sheep. So what I did was flick through the colour palettes till I got to the night vision and see if I got eye shine back from it. That way you can tell if it's something alive or not, and not a rock or a concrete water trough, which also shines up in the thermal. I then give the field that I'd shot the two foxes in earlier a scan, and sure enough there was a fox hanging around up in the corner of the field where the other two had bedded down. But as quickly as it appeared, it disappeared again, so I turned my attention to the other field I'd spotted the heat source in. But it turned out not to be a fox or a badger, but actually a hare. It's not the first time I've mistaken them for a fox in a thermal, and probably won't be the last either. Forgive me if you find this B-roll footage boring, but I left it in for those people who might be thinking about buying one of these multi-spectrum binoculars to give them a sense of how useful they could be, even though this was the base unit at the time. Anyhow, while I was being distracted by the hare, guess what turned up? Yep, the fox that disappeared earlier. And it seemed to be following the same path that the dog fox had taken. So I watched it and let it head further to the left-hand side. There is a road somewhere in the distance there, so the further to the left it goes, the safer a shot I have. After a while it seemed to lie down and started chewing at itself. It wasn't a great spot for me, as the top bar of the gate was playing havoc with the IR, but when it started walking back up the field again, I knew I had to take the shot. It quickly disappeared out of view, and I thought I'd missed another easy shot. But when I swapped to the thermal binoculars, I finally spotted it away up the field. It must have run about 40-50 yards and then dropped dead. Another quick scan of the area showed that Mr. Hare had found himself a friend. Dog fox, that's the first one I shot. Clean shoulder shot, if I can get it turned over. This is the second one I shot, the one that came running into the lipsqueak. Looks like I got it fair in the chest. And it's a vixen. This is the last one, the one that ran about 40-50 yards. And that's why it's chewing at itself, at a dose of mange. Another vixen. That was 3 for the night. Don't often get that, and the farmer was well chuffed too. The next night I was up, spotted another fox, same area, and it looked as if it was doubled over chewing at itself as well. Again, that fence post in the foreground was playing havoc with the IR, so I switched to the thermal binoculars to confirm that the fox was down and it was staying down. Oh my, what a mess it was in. It's no wonder it was chewing at itself. It's covered with mange. I decided not to touch this one. I didn't even set my rifle near it for the photograph. This is another night. I usually set up on this spot at the back of the farmyard, as the foxes seem to come and go through this area, and I just stand and wait and see what turns up. I can't remember why, but I seem to be having trouble with the IR this particular night. I used to use one of the Nightmaster 800. That was an old one I used for lamping before night vision and that came about. I've since swapped to a Nightsaber Wraith or Wrath ESL unit, which seems to be working well for me. But I eventually get this fox stopped. And miss. I don't know how I missed. I could have swore the crosshairs was on its chest when I squeezed the trigger, but I lost him in the scope. So I switched to the thermal binoculars and spotted him running across the top end of the field. And the speed he was going at, it didn't look as if there was much wrong with him. But more on this in part 2. Yes, there's a part 2 video coming along. This shot I was quite nervous about, as it was a new piece of ground I'd never been on before, and the farmer asked if he could come along with me, so I really didn't want to miss. Thankfully I didn't, even though it was blowing quite hard and the farmer was standing right beside me. After the shot, I got straight on to the mouth call. And it wasn't too long till I spotted what looked like a fox coming across the field on my right hand side. It got within 30 to 40 yards from me, but couldn't get through the thick hedge. Thankfully, it walked about 100 yards down the field and came through an open gateway. Boy, was I relieved to see that, especially with the farmer standing right beside me. He'd been losing lambs and he gave me a call through the week. He'd got my number from another farmer. Now, this is a first for me, as the dog fox had no tail. Whether he'd lost it in a car accident or it had been chewed off when it was a cub at some point. The other one was a vixen, so it looks as if I got the pair.
Vixen?
To say the farmer was pleased would be an understatement. He was so impressed with the Habrok binoculars, he ended up buying a pair of his own. This here's a different night and I'm out on a different farm. I've only just arrived and decided to give the back paddock where the lamb and sheep was a scan with a thermal and spotted a fox straight away. The problem was it spotted me at the same time. I think the wind was blowing in its favour and not mine, and it took off. As you can hear, I tried lip squeaking it back again, but it was not interested. I switched to a mouth call, but as you can see, the more I blew, the faster it ran. When I walked over to the other side of the farmyard, I spotted this fox making its way down the hedgerow. So I didn't bother trying to call it, it was coming the right direction. I did lose sight of it for a wee while, but it had actually crossed through the hedgerow into the next field. Some sheep, a few rabbits in the distance, but that seemed to be the only fox about. I turned round and tried scanning the field behind me, where I think I spotted a fox coming through the hedgerow. I tried the mouth call again, but it wasn't interested at all. I went to retrieve the one I'd shot, and boy was that field wet. I was doing my best trying not to fall over when my feet stuck in the mud. Another dog fox. I think I shoot more dog foxes than vixens actually. Thankfully, I managed to get it and myself back out of that glare hole of a field. Well folks, that's the end of that one. And yes, there is a part 2 coming. The upgrades I definitely think were worth the money. Getting that thermal spotter and the Alpex 4K scope. I spend less time standing calling now and prefer to find a bit of high ground where I can scan with the thermal and then spot and stalk into a fox. But anyway, take care folks, and again, look out for part 2 of this. Cheerio and look after yourselves, hey.